Hello. It's good to be back here. I just have several questions. One.
There is tar and feather waiting in the back room for you.
Oh, God. I hope so. I sell commercial real estate. And I have clients who they're so focused on what they want. They never focused on how inappropriate or appropriate they are. They're just a hot knife and life is butter. And they're just
single-minded,
slicing right through it.
Yes.
And I have been able to observe it and begin to learn from it and tying it in with your teaching. And it has been a very, very powerful way of me using my business, using it in my business.
Well, it's a wonderful thing. Words don't teach. Life experience teaches. But when you are able to observe life experience that is working and then couple it with the intellectual things that you are learning, that makes a very nice combination, doesn't it?
It does. And it also ties in with my early life when I was trying to live my life appropriately. And I was trying to live my life.
We're happy that you bring that in here because we don't want to spend a lot of time on this, but it really is the answer that you're looking for, and it will extend what we were talking about earlier into a clearer, newer place. And that is, you're all born as an extension of source energy, still really tapped into it. And if you were, right from the moment that you came forth, encouraged by those that are trying to teach you familiarity with your planet and all of that, if you were encouraged to pay attention and really care about how you feel, only, all of you would maintain your connection to source and you would create dramatically wonderful lives for yourself. But what happens sometimes, in fact often, is that you look to someone close to you, a parent or guardian, someone who is the vortex through which a lot of your well-being is flowing. And you determine, either because they tell you or from your own observation, that under some circumstances you will offer behavior that pleases them, and under other circumstances you will offer behavior that doesn't please them. And of course, you get more positive feedback when you offer behavior that pleases them. So as you offer behavior that pleases them, and it does please them, in other words, you try, you please them, you get the reward that you wanted for having pleased them, you learn a distorted thing. You begin to believe that their happiness and your behavior are tied together. Mm-hmm. So then, without meaning to, because you are such an uplifter, not just with this person, but with a lot of people, and maybe even the world in general, if you are really altruistic, you begin to believe that you carry the burden of other people's happiness and that it depends upon your behavior, and you start failing right away at keeping them happy. And that's what causes a steady eroding of your sense of well-being and worthiness, because you take credit for their happiness and responsibility for their unhappiness, and since you can't stand on your head in enough different ways to even keep one of them happy, let alone all of them happy, you come away from it, and that's why old people are cranky. In other words, it's that constant attempting to do something that you are not able to do that makes you feel uncomfortable again and again, you see. So we always love it when someone like you comes back into the conscious awareness that you get to guide yourself by the way you feel. And now, even though you're not able to do it all the time, you are at least cognizant when you meet someone who is doing that.
Awareness.
And then your question is, as your question is here that you're offering, well, what's their secret? Or have you come to any conclusions as you watch them? What do you see?
They're focused.
And what are they focused upon?
They're focused on what they want.
And would you call them selfish or unselfish as you observe them? In other words,
selfish.
They are.
Absolutely.
They are selfish enough to care about what they want and to focus upon what they care about.
Absolutely, 100%
Yes.
of the time. And it's
Yes.
interesting because our society obviously doesn't really
Well, of
encourage
course.
that. But
No,
when we
because you're
see
so-
that's the only thing that works.
But you see, think about just one person seeing one of these young people thriving. And this person that's witnessing them thriving also wants to thrive, but maybe isn't. Well, when you want to thrive and you see someone thriving, Does it make you happy they're thriving, or does it make you unhappy in your awareness that you're not thriving?
Unhappy.
Now, it could go either way, but usually what happens is they just exacerbate your failure at achieving what you want, and that's why they don't appreciate you all that much. And then they start making up stories to try to make themselves feel better, but that's how everything gets all distorted. They say, oh, well, your father probably bought it from you, and they called you spoiled, and they called you greedy, and they called you rich, or they call you uncaring, or they call you selfish. In other words, they call you all kinds of things, but all that they're doing is flailing about in their own discord at their own not being able to figure out how to achieve what they want. And so we love it when they have the good fortune of coming face to face with someone who is thriving. But it's interesting. Have you noticed how people who want to thrive but aren't don't have ready access to thrivers? So the case studies that you are examining just keep reinforcing what you already believe.
No, absolutely. I've noticed that as well.
And so aren't you pretty proud that you keep attracting into your experience people who are naturally thriving? Doesn't it sort of let you know that your vibration must be getting close to that, or you wouldn't have so much access to that?
Oh, more and more. I sell commercial real estate, and I do attract more and more ready clients. Last year, I was in my largest commercial real estate project, and everything seemed to be moving away from me toward another buyer, toward another investor. And I began to use the Abraham principles. The seller's office was right across the street from my office. So every day when I walked over to Circle K to get a Diet Coke or an iced tea, I would look up at her window, and I would just say, you're going to sell the property to my client. Now, they had the contract. The contract was shipped to New York. All it had to do was be signed, and the deal was done. And every day, I just focused on what I wanted, 100% what I wanted. And I would look up at her window, and I would just say it as I walked by. And I'd call the broker, is the contract signed yet? No, we have a problem. And this went on for several weeks, probably over a month. And I just kept doing this. I just focused on what I wanted. And then lo and behold, a week, probably 6 weeks later, the guy calls me, can your guys close in 3 weeks? And I say, yes, we can. And boom, it was effortless. But I had already, as you spoke, I had already achieved the vibration of this happening because I had to focus on what I wanted, and I did. And I just kept that vibration alive.
And would you say you just refuse to let your mind
Absolutely.
Focus otherwise?
Absolutely.
And that's the art of deliberate creating, isn't it?
And it was, but it was pure. It was my pure Abraham teachings and background that's allowed that to happen. And as I say, I use the Abraham teachings exclusively in my business.
Well, Esther has been enjoying her association through the television airwaves with Donald Trump. She has not met him, but she became interested in him when this new Apprentice television show began airing. And while the show itself is not particularly pleasing to her because it feels contrived and a bit distorted, she is enjoying getting to hear him. And then she began noticing that the universe was lining her up with different interviews that he would offer. And as she began listening to the words that come out of his mouth, she hears words like, oh, it is a juggernaut. Oh, it is the most magnificent thing that has ever been built. And most people who are hearing him would call him a braggart or would call him arrogant. But Esther is noticing the single-mindedness of his dialogue. She is beginning to notice that he does not allow himself at least to speak other than the way he would like it to unfold. And so as you begin getting a sense of what success principles are, and that it's only about aligning with your idea of what you want, period, that's all. The universal forces are not questioning your authenticity, they're not questioning your value or your reasoning ability or the appropriateness or inappropriateness of what you say you want. It's strictly aligning up with it or not. And when you've lined up with anything, wanted or not wanted, it's going to come to you. So when you say nothing is more important than the way I feel, and I'm going to increase my good feeling by my ability to focus, what you begin to show yourself is that you can bring yourself into alignment with any desire that you have identified. And when you bring yourself into alignment, then as it unfolds, it's going to be pleasing to you on all levels. You could never line up with your source and harm another. You could never line up with your source and deprive anyone of anything. When you line up with your source, the well-being that flows to you is well-being on all levels. Yes.
Yes. I was speaking about this at the break, and I used Donald Trump as my example as well, as somebody who people, they label as arrogant. But I see him as just a person who's
You
learned
use
how to
different
focus.
words. You call him aligned.
Focused.
Focused.
Absolutely.
In alignment. Yes.
Thank you very much.
Yes.